I'm going to make this a two-parter. We've got enough information left. I'm going to make this 2 shows for tomorrow. So this is the end of part 1. We're going to start part 2 right now.
Cool.
Jesse, number 3 is a fun one. Will the 2026 linebackers be better in coverage than last year? Because if the answer is no to this, I may quit my job.
Yeah.
It better be yes. I don't know. I don't know how it could be worse, to be honest.
I think that's where you have to start. Could it be worse? And I mean, of course it could. We've seen worse, but
the pit game is ingrained forever.
It feels like it's got to be better, right? And I think the couple of things that you're looking at here is, now I know the Mikai Gbayor kid has been banged up from what I've heard, but it's been an upper body injury, not a lower body injury, so he can probably go through like non-contact and things like that. He's more of an athletic guy. His this ain't the end all be all, I get it, but his PFF pass grade was like 64, 65, somewhere in there. Better than most of Florida State's linebackers last year. That's a guy that's got 2 years in Tony White's defense. I think there's a good coverage linebacker for you. I think, when you look at the Lavallee kid, Noah, he was a kid that was very athletic at North Carolina and showed out in their bowl game and just got hurt and wasn't available last year. So I think between those 2 guys and Blake Nichelson, who's come on, man, it's time, right? This is your
time.
Athlete.
He's
athletic.
Not a physical problem,
right? It's not a physical problem. So I think between those 3, you will have better coverage out of your linebackers this year. Now, Chris Jones is the linebacker, of course, everyone, including myself, is most excited about. But when you look back at his kind of pass coverage stats,
not a pass guy.
He's like Omar Graham Jr. You want to hide him somewhere in that defense where you cannot get him in one-on-ones with a slot, in one-on-ones with a speedy tight end or something like that, because it's just not going to end well. He's a thumper. He's a tackler. I love to have him on this defense. But I just think from the skill sets that you had, you look at some of the guys that you had last year, they weren't very athletic linebackers at all. And that was a priority that they had going into this offseason. So I do think it will be better this year. How much better? That remains to be seen, but I think you're going to have to rely on Gbayor. I think you're going to have to rely on Blake Nichelson, and I think you're going to have to rely on the Noah Lavallee kid to be your coverage linebackers. But I do think the level of athleticism should bump that up some.
I agree, and on top of that, they probably Lavallee is a kid that we don't know a ton about, but I know he can run. He's good. How much do they absorb? I don't think Tony's defense is easy, but if you do get it, the idea is to drop more guys in coverage and get picks, just straight up. It's not.
Yeah.
That's what they're trying to do. And especially against younger QBs.
Yeah.
That'll work.
Yeah. And year 2's got to be something. And I understand that you have new guys in the system, right? With Chris Jones, brand new. Gbayor, half of the guys we just mentioned are brand new. But, Lavallee was here last year. Omar Graham was here last year. All these guys, Blake Nichelson. So these are guys that not only have a better understanding of the defense, but they can also help get the other guys up to speed too. And to Tony White's point, he's like, look, we're doing things now that we weren't even doing until the season last year. And so I know his defense was up and down last year and it looked rough a lot at times. Some games, the Alabama game was great. I still like at a podium. I don't think there's anybody better than Tony White.
He's fun.
Every time I reaffirm my love for Tony White every time I hear him talk, but it's also got to follow on the field. And that's the hard part. So I do think year 2 in this defense and having a better understanding, because I want to say, yes, they have a lot of new guys, but I want to say it's like 60-70% of the starters will be returning guys. 9 guys will have at least started a game for them last year. So that's got to help.
I don't know how
you would hope.
I mean, it better. All right. Number 4, how much of the Ryland Kennedy hype are you buying?
I'm going to keep every bit of hype at arm's reach, right? Why is that? Because the last really hyped defensive end we had that came in turned out to be absolute nothing. And that was James Williams, right? Number 1 pass rusher in the country in his based on workload and things like that. And everybody got excited. I can't wait. This guy, now he's going to be in a full-time role and he'll be, the next best thing. Not at all. Absent on the field.
It was bad.
It was terrible, right? You even look at a Marvin Jones Jr., a guy that came in with a lot of hype. It was bad. So with any one of these guys, I'm going to hold them to an arm's length. I'm going to take everything with a grain of salt because I'm not going to believe it till I see it on the field. The one thing that I will say is when you look at just the package of what he is physically and the potential and the tools that are there, and you also look at what a lot of people have talked about, maybe he wasn't used in a way that created a lot of production at Texas A&M with a lot of spying and things like that. So the numbers may not be there, but I mean, he's probably one of the best you got. So you need him to be good. But I think the physical tools are there. And if they can just figure out a way to use those physical tools appropriately, I think he has a lot of potential. I just think for me, when it comes down to Ryland Kennedy, it's going to be the same question I had with James Williams. You were good in packages. Can you be an every down defensive end now? Because that's a big jump, and it didn't turn out well last year. So you need him to be a guy who can be there for you on every down if needed. And so the way James Williams went, I got to hold my reservation on anybody.
Well, I agree with that. And there's been a lot of discourse. I don't care which FSU site you check. The run game's been probably a little better than we thought it would be this spring. Now, the running backs are really good.
Yeah, yep.
But can Kennedy handle a team like Alabama on 1st and 10?
Yeah. Yeah. And I will say one thing, at least he did play in the SEC. So when he did play, it was against good competition.
100%.
And also, I like Nick Williams. So we'll see how much that influences the edges to begin with, because, when you had Terrence Knighton basically doing the entire defensive line, he was a nose tackle by trade. He didn't play edge. And so it's kind of like, it feels like you're in a better position to succeed with having Nick Williams, a fiery defensive ends coach. And so I think that could be a bump too. That's something I'm watching as well.
I would agree with that. Number 5, which running back leads the team in rushing?
This might be the hardest question on the list because it
is pretty difficult, honestly.
It's tough, man. And, the hard part, I think that really confuses me when we come into this is when we took Wisner to begin with. Now, I understand it's a long season, and I would have taken him 10 times out of 10 because I really think he's a good player. But, we had lamented the running back rotation last year because it was atrocious.
Oh, I've never understand that.
It was the worst. It just make no sense. All you got to do is rip off 18 yards to get put on the bench or something like that. And sorry to bring hope and bring back scarred wounds. But the thing is, you bring in Kam Martin, who's a guy that typically followed that Gus Malzahn. He worked with Gus before, that mindset of we're going to feature one back. And so when it was like, okay, we brought in 2 backs, that's interesting. Maybe it's just a depth thing, in case somebody gets hurt. But the exciting thing for me, talking about Nick Williams and the edges, it's the same thing for Kam Martin. It's the guy that I think the last 4 or 5 years in a row has produced 1,000-yard rusher at every program he's been at, and it's not been at the same program. So he's kind of got a proven track record of being able to push 1,000-yard runner. Now, the question is, with 2 really good backs, is it more of like a combined for 1,000? Is it one guy hits 1,000, the other guy's on his heels? I also will say that I don't think you're going to have a very strong passing offense because you're going to be quarterback limited. So you're going to run the ball a lot. So it's good that you brought in extra running backs. Man, I'm so excited about Kromah. I'm so excited about Kromah. But I'm right now going to give the edge to Wisner because he's a proven 1,000-yard back on a playoff team from 2024 when he was at Texas. And I just think after last year, he didn't play as much because he got injured, but his numbers were still on par had he been healthy. He's just a proven guy. So I think he's going to I think he might top, but I think it's going to be close. And the reason I say that too is because Kromah, the rumors are he signed a 2-year deal. You better keep him happy or you might not be able to keep him after this year. So I think he's going to have to get a lot of carries too. Where does Sam Singleton fit into this? He's an explosive guy as well.
Great
it's tough, man. But I would go right now. I'd go Wisner, Kromah, Singleton, and then we'll see what Amari Thomas can do too.
Absolutely. Number 6, besides quarterback, which position worries you the most?
This has changed. Coming into this, it was defensive line, and that's still it's probably
perfect.
It's 1A, 1B, right? When you hear about a lot of the chunk plays that the run game has broke off in spring camp, but listening to some of the reports, it's like a lot of the stuff that the running backs have been doing is just basically trying to avoid negative plays because it's kind of getting blown up in the backfield a little bit. So I think I'm actually kind of swinging the pendulum over to the offensive line right now. I think coming out of spring, I'm a little bit concerned about the offensive line more than I am the defensive line. And a big part of that is because I feel a little bit better about the linebackers coming into this year. So I think they can kind of help clean up some of the defensive line. Whereas the offensive line, there's a lot of unknown. There's a lot of ups and downs right now. We haven't really heard a lot of great. And you really need them to be okay, right? Because we just talked about the backs. Who's going to be – exactly. If you can't run the ball, this
the
offense is
quarterback's
dead.
going to be in a
This
really
offense
tough
is
spot.
dead in the water. So I think you need that offensive line to be good. And right now, you're just not hearing a lot of good things. So I think the weight of concern has shifted from the defensive line. I'm still concerned. Don't get me wrong. From the defensive line, more to the offensive line post-spring.
Yeah, the Desir twins, they're going to be NFL players.
They'll be solid.
Kevin Wynn is a rare player. He's one of
Yep.
the big guys up front. He's doing good.
Daniel Lyons has accepted the challenge a little bit. We'll see how that actually turns out on the field.
Yeah, the two transfers they had at end last year, Diggs and I forget the other. They'll at least be serviceable.
Yeah, I like Deontay McCray too. I think he's a pretty good player.
Now the question is, how many of those young guys can do something? I mean, Ernest Rankins, etc. I don't like relying on freshmen in the trenches, but I remember standing next to him at an event, and I'm like, holy cow.
Yeah, you're hoping for another Mandrel Desir to pop.
Yeah. I mean, even if it's just 15 snaps a game, it would be a big help.
Huge
to the Florida State football program. Absolutely. All right, number 7. This one is tricky. It's actually good for Florida to rise, while Miami continues to win, to apply pressure on the Florida State administration to make a coaching move. So what I'm saying there, for those that didn't listen to like part 1 or whatever, look, Florida's recruiting is kicking into high gear. Right after I get done with this show with Jesse, I know we're recording this on a Thursday, Florida's going to get a big-time quarterback commit here tonight. They just got arguably the best offensive lineman in the country. We know Miami's recruiting at elite level. Distancing themselves from Florida State, as awful as that sounds, might have a good end result, in my opinion. I'm just asking. Jesse, do you think that's part of the thing that needs to help push the administration over the top? Because if they go 6-6, I'm just going to say this, and they bring Mike back for 27, there will be pitchforks, there will be fires, like literally.
I'll be the first one, I promise you.
Should not allow their families out. And I'm not trying to be funny. That's awful, but it's true. It'll be awful. He has to either win like 8 or 9 games or be gone.
Yeah.
And I think one of the reasons they could do that, they're like, look, they're killing it over here and we're not. What do you think about that?
If I'm being honest, I think if he wins 7 games, he's coming back. If we're being honest, 6-6, I think is going to be really tough to justify. And you're right. I think it will be pitchforks. And I promise you,
all that stuff comes.
It's going to matter how it looks. You know what I mean? If you were 6-6 and you just lost by 3 points in all 6 games or something crazy like that.
Okay.
Maybe you recruited well. The new pieces we talked about in part 1 of the new recruiters, maybe you finally got a top 10 class, or so I doubt it, but finally got a top 10 class. You know, maybe that's a reason to hang on. But this is a tough question to answer because this is a stab and twist. Like, as a Florida State guy, and I'll be the first one to lead with the pitchfork, but I hope Florida and Miami go 0-12 every year. I mean, into eternity, because I hate both programs. But I understand the logic that you're saying. It becomes the double-sided axe, right? Or the two-sided sword, where last year, what the position that a lot of Florida State fans were in, where, you know, you have the angel and the devil on each shoulder, and you're going, man, I just want to win games because that's what this is all about. You also go, man, I just wish we just lose every game, so then they would just fire him. Apparently they weren't. So I think this year, you know, again, you had Miami with what happened, but they were up and coming, not great. You know, you beat them 40 by 42 points in their place just a couple years ago. So you felt like you were in good footing against Miami. They have now crept up and lapped you in your own building last year. That's when I had originally called for Mike Norvell to be fired. Florida, they have been struggling too. They were floundering. Now, if they get momentum under John Summerall early, to your point, I think it applies pressure to the administration, because who do you measure yourself against? Your peers and your closest peers. And so if these two programs are on the rise, again, it goes back to a lot of the things that I said in part 1, where the goalposts are in different places for these programs, because, you know, Mario's success or his struggles came early in the program. And you could blame that on, I just got to get my guys in here. You know, Mario took a lot. He's a terrible game day coach, but it was like, I'm going to follow my process. It's going to pay off. It also helps you got a billionaire booster. It paid off. You played for a national championship game. Still only won the ACC. Just want to add that in there. Florida, on the other hand, you get a brand new coach Smell, right? He's coming in. And if he can win 7-8 games, I think you're going to see that start to kind of roll a little bit too. And so, but they're early in the tenure. You know, Mike's problem is his struggles were early. Then he had a couple of good years, and now they're back again. Like 7 years into the tenure, it should not be this bad. It's not going to be that bad for Mario. I don't know if it's going to be that bad for Summerall or not. I really like Buster Faulkner as an OC. I like some of the staff they've made, hires that they've made. it feels crazy to go back to the G5 well, but I don't think it's going to be as bad this time for them. I hope it is, but it's probably not. So I think you're right. I think in a weird kind of way, it applies pressure to the administration, because then your boosters are going to go, well, look at them. Well, they're already going, well, look at Miami. Well, now they're going to be, look at Florida too, right? Like, how pissed off are people after we just lose this baseball series to Florida? I know it's a midweek, that doesn't mean anything, but it means more than any other midweek on your schedule, because those two games against those two programs means more than anything on your schedule. And so if you can't beat them and you can't keep up with them, you got to find someone who can. And because for all of his shortcomings, one thing Jimbo Fisher did, he took it to their ass every year. I think he only lost to Florida once, and I think he beat Miami like 7 times in a row. So no matter how the season goes, those two games matter more than anything. And so if they're good and you're not, I think it is going to turn up the pressure. And as they say, you know, pressure makes diamonds. And if that diamond turns out to be coal, you got to get it out of here, man. You have to. So I don't want to see them do good, but your logic is 100% spot on. It's going to make it tougher for them to justify 7-5, 5-7 being good. Say John Summerall goes 9-3 this year and Mike Norvell goes 7-5. Is that acceptable?
No,
in no way, shape, or form. So, yeah, I mean, to your point, I think he really, really needs to win like 8 games this year, or else if they look good and they're recruiting better than you, you got to make a change. You got to make a change anyway, but it is what it is.
Does Florida State make a bowl game? Number 8. I have a hard no, just for the record.
I got no. It's unfortunate, man. I got no. I mean, again, I think when you come down to the brass tacks of what the season can be, do I think they could do it? Yeah, sure. I mean, I think a lot of it is, let's see where these other teams on their schedule end up being, right? How good is a Louisville? How good is a SMU and things like that? But, you know, 90% of this season, to me, when you're talking about can they make a bowl, comes down to, this is a team that has not won a road game in 2 years. They're 0-10 on the road. You look at the road schedule this year: at Alabama, at Louisville on a short week, at Miami, at Boston College, at Pitt on a short week coming off a trip to Boston College. Are they going to win? How many road games are they going to win? I'm going to give them 1. I think they break the streak of completely losing road games, and I think they probably end up 1-14 in the last 3 years. So other than that, you know, you get a couple of gimme games. That's 3 wins right there between Boston College and the 2 bad teams. So now you got to win at least 4 games out of SMU, Virginia, Clemson, NC State, and Florida. That's a tough schedule, man. I mean, you should beat Florida in year 1. You should beat an NC State in your place. Clemson's got a ton of questions, and they're starting over too. I'll at least say this: is the possibility for them to make a bowl there? Yes, because Clemson doesn't know what they're doing right now with a lot of different things. Florida's new. NC State, you know, they got CJ Bailey, but that's a perpetual 7 to 9 win team, right? They don't ever pop off. SMU typically struggles early in the season. I think they've lost their first Power 4 game of the season like the last 3 years. So to me, the path and the potential is there. It's just a trust issue with this staff. It's a quarterback issue because they keep going back to the bargain bin for quarterbacks. And so to me, could it happen? 100%. Will it happen? I wouldn't put my money on it.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at too, Jesse. To summarize, Jesse and I are pretty much on the same page. There's a lot of things that can come from spring, but the one thing that we both agree, quarterback's not where we thought it was going to be. It's more of a competition. So don't discount some random news at any point from July through the end of August with quarterback, or even into September. Like, if there's one thing that's going to keep us interested, I mean, it would not shock me if 3 different quarterbacks started this year.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, the interesting thing too now is this year that's different than before. There is no more spring portal session. So what you got is what you got. Right. You are riding with what you got. So you better hope it was good enough. And some disappointing news means you've got no room to pivot. And so that, to me, that's a little bit tough. And, you know, the quarterback position too with Florida State and the way they play it, it just feels tough. You know, it kind of feels like a lottery ticket, right? You go to the store, you want to get rich quick. And like Miami, they got the money. That's great. They bought the $20 scratch-off ticket, right? If Mensa hits, it's going to be a big prize. It feels like we're getting them dollar scratchers from the store. You know what I mean? And so it's like, even if Ashton Daniels outperforms Kevin Sperry, how good is he? You're talking about a guy, again, that's got a pretty bad career history. if he shows up like he did at the, a couple of games, Vanderbilt last year and even Alabama last year at Auburn, I could see a path to a bowl game, but it's going to be something to watch because to your point, you could have 3 quarterbacks make a start this year. Who knows if you're 1-2 after Alabama and Central Arkansas comes to town, maybe we see Mikai Marshall in that game. Maybe we got to break glass in case of emergency.
That could be one of the more interesting games because a lot of young players might play in general.
Yep.
Because after that, Virginia at Louisville, at Miami, by Clemson. Like, it's like, holy cow.
You got no wiggle room in any of the rest of the games.
Yeah, all those games are going to be competitive. Jesse, thank you very much for hanging out with me. I really don't know what to make of spring. Of course, they're absolutely going out of their way not to give anything because they're so mad at the media for being honest about everything. It's just true that you can tell. It's obvious. But that's why we do what we do. So hang in there, brother. Appreciate it. Check out Plant to Spear. Jesse is a great guy, writes a lot of stuff, does podcasts. Plant to Spear is a very good source for your Florida State information. Thank you very much for everybody for checking us out. Please hit that like and hit that subscribe. We will see you again soon right here.
Thank you.